There's been more Twitter drama that will make you question if any adults are in the room. AEW have had a backstage overhaul, and WWE just saw a shock title change. I'm Luke Owen, and this is the WrestleTalk News.
Support WrestleTalk!
Like the Red Hot Chili Peppers in 1995, it's been one hot minute since I was last behind this desk reading from this teleprompter about wrestling news to you fine folk. A lot of craziness has happened since then. A lot of OG staffers have left AEW as the company moves into a new era. Hiroshi Tanahashi was made president of New Japan. Speaking of which, Dolph Ziggler and Matt Riddle have both made deals with New Japan. And The Rock returned to WWE, seemingly to put a stop to Cody Rhodes' story. But I'm not here to talk about any of that sort of news. No, because the news that has gotten the wrestling world chattering today is grown men arguing on Twitter about wins and losses. Happy New Year to me, I guess. To give you some context around all of these, for those of you who've been blissfully under rocks for the last 48 hours, on Monday's episode of Raw, a very good show it must be said, one of the more baffling moments was when Seth Rollins started a mini feud with new challenger for the World Heavyweight Championship, Jinder Mahal. This will lead to a match next week between the two for the title, and it feels just like a bit of filler as we head into Rumble season. Just something for Seth to do while all of the other top names are busy doing Rumble things. The problem is, as many pointed out, is that Jinder Mahal doesn't exactly feel like a top title fighter, given that he's only been on TV a handful of times in the last year or so as a manager, got chumpetized by The Rock the week previous where the joke was, wasn't it silly this man was once WWE champion, and he last won a match on Raw or SmackDown on July 3rd, 2022. That was 556 days ago. To give it even more context, the last time Jinder Mahal won a match on Raw or SmackDown, Vince McMahon was still booking the show. It did feel like an odd choice. Dan Layton and I discussed it at length on the WrestleTalk podcast yesterday, but the reaction to it was more muted than one would expect, especially considering that, we all remember how bad of a time this was. No one was truly angry online about the idea of Jinder Mahal getting a world title shot, even though it is a world title shot that makes little logical sense. We didn't get any angry ultra chats on the WrestleTalk podcast. No one was really mad about it in the live chat. If anything, everyone was actually quite thrilled about it. But one man who did get his heckles up about it was AEW CEO Tony Khan. And the reason Khan got his knickers in a twist is that just a few days prior, he came under fire for booking something similar. On Saturday's edition of AEW Collision, Hook laid out a challenge for new world champion Samoa Joe, which prompted a slew of social media backlash against All Elite Wrestling for booking a lower card guy like Hook against a top guy like Samoa Joe. We did get a few mildly angry ultra chats on the WrestleTalk podcast, and we had way more mad about it in the live chat. To be fair, we did a poll where 55% were excited about the idea of Hook challenging Joe and 35% were on the fence. So with all of that context is why Tony Khan decided to have a total meltdown on Twitter. And now AEW and WWE wrestlers, as well as other wrestling media, are all getting involved. It all started with a tweet from Khan, who wrote, "A double standard. Hook, 28-1 career record on winning streak, calls out the champ. A logical challenge sparks online outrage. Jinder has lost every single match he's in for the past year, immediately gets title shots. Where is the rage?" That feels like it should be the end of it, but Tony went looking for more. Earlier in the day, Raj Giri had posted what he felt was a defense of Jinder versus Seth by tweeting that they once had a match in NXT. A compelling defense there, Raj. To which USA Network, the home of WWE Raw, jokingly replied, "What was the cage match rating?" Well, let me tell you, USA Network social media manager, it was, let me just find it for you here, 6.27. Which is not a great result, let's be honest. This is, of course, a shot at those who value in-ring wrestling over soap opera storytelling, as Apparently, you can only like either in-ring work or storytelling in wrestling, and not some weird combination of the two. TK reposted this tweet arguing a moral victory for USA is one more win than their world title challenger Jinder Mahal has had in the past 364 days, because it's been literally a full year since he won a match. You really put AEW in our place getting Jinder Mahal in a big match on your TV show. Do it more often. This is where other people started to get involved, because apart from either liking in-ring work rate or storytelling, you also have to fall into one of two camps. Wins and losses matter, or wins and losses don't matter. For decades, WWE has pushed the narrative that wins and losses don't matter. You can lose a bunch of matches and it doesn't affect the wrestler or the storylines you're doing on TV. When AEW launched in 2019, they wanted to do the opposite, even implementing a ranking system that was based on wins and losses to determine who gets title shots. This was dropped a few years later when it became apparent that it was difficult to keep up, and fans complained online that it never really made much sense. This was Jonathan Coachman's point, as he tweeted in response to TK, "We also used to get amused at fans who counted wins like wrestlers earned them. Hell, if Vince wanted, I could have been world champion." But the storyline didn't support it. It's about the story, clearly not wins in a predetermined space. Thought a boss would understand that. This prompted a reply from a wrestling fan by the name of Mickey, who pointed out that Tony Khan did the same thing recently with Abaddon, arguing they were given a title shot despite being off TV for over a year. And here, like clockwork, is where Eric Bischoff enters our story. He'd already reposted Khan's original tweet with a clown emoji, and then, clearly looking for things to argue about on Twitter, reposted a tweet he was not tagged in saying, "Hey Tony Khan, is this true or is it a bot?" Of course, it's not true. Mickey ignored the fact that Abaddon was off TV due to injury, and when they came back, won a #1 contenders match for that title shot, which is what Tony Khan replied with. It's always funny when Bischoff gets involved in AEW Twitter drama, as one of the arguments against TK's Twitter behavior is that it isn't befitting of a wrestling promoter to act this way on social media. After all, Vince McMahon never did this when he was in charge, and Triple H isn't doing it either. No, instead they did it on TV during the Monday Night War, stopping their own programming to take shots at the competition with skits like Billionaire Ted, or driving a truck to the opposition show to invade and boast about how few people were attending it. Eric Bischoff also did it himself on WCW television, once challenging Vince McMahon to show up for a pay-per-view for a wrestling match in an effort to boost the buy rates and bump their TV ratings. He read out the result of taped WWE shows on his show. This is what wrestling promoters did in the days before social media. Social media just changed the promoting game. And it's not exclusive to wrestling, of course. Pepsi ran anti-Coca-Cola campaigns, Burger King ran anti-McDonald's campaigns. When you're in second place, you punch up to first. But if you're in first, you don't acknowledge second. When Ibu of Wrestle Purist pointed out the hypocrisy of Bischoff's tweets, Eric said that it wasn't the same deal as when he did it. He was head-to-head with WWE and without dirt sheets. I'm not quite sure what point he's making either. Something about Dave Meltzer being on the payroll or something equally idiotic. And then wrestlers, including Jinder Mahal, got involved. Corey Graves tweeted support of Mahal, simply saying Jinder rules, which apparently popped Bully Ray. Dax Harwood, seemingly in response, tweeted Hook rules, and Anthony Bowens also tweeted in support of Hook. Dax also replied to Bischoff, pointing out the hypocrisy of his criticisms. Jinder Mahal himself had the best tweet in all of this, however, simply posting, "Who the f*** is Hook?" A lot of this does feel like wrestlers having fun, especially with Dax tweeting in all caps, "Wrestling is back, baby, let's f***ing go." AEW wrestlers acting up on Twitter, better call Danielson. But one guy who didn't seem to be taking it in all good fun was NXT's Edris Enofé, who replied to Tony's original tweet asking him to shut the f*** up. Both Jinder and Enofé deleted their tweets. So, what did we learn from all of this? Well, apart from the usual lesson that Twitter is an awful place, nothing is achieved in all of this, and nothing will be learned. I actually agree with Tony. Jinder getting a title shot with no heating up isn't great booking, and it's not comparable to Hook getting a title shot. But he's not changing any minds either. In this bizarre tribalistic timeline we found ourselves in, if you have planted your flag in WWE's ground, you're not going to read Tony's tweets and think, maybe he's right. Do you know what? I'm not going to watch WWE next week, and I'm going to watch Dynamite instead. Similarly, his tweets aren't appealing to the mainstream casual fan because they're not getting involved or seeking out Twitter drama. Only established wrestling fans are, and as we've discussed, they've already made up their minds. It's not like WWE Gareth is going to be on the Dynamite train. It's not going to change Eric's mind either, as he'll just make a tweet that he doesn't like his hair. And if you point out that wrestling promoters have always done this, it was just on TV and not on social media, that doesn't change any minds either. So what did we learn? Probably nothing, because I also made that point. But you know what? Sticking with AEW for a moment, and as I mentioned at the top of this video, there has been some backstage overhauls within the company over the last few weeks and months. QT Marshall announced that he would be leaving the company so he can focus on being a full-time wrestler. Their live events and touring vice president, Raphael Murphy, also stepped down, as did the head of merchandising, Dana Macy, who is also the wife of Matt Jackson of the Young Bucks. And in the first hire since they all stepped away, AEW brought in WWE's former regional director of live events, Kosha Irby, to be the company's new COO. Always getting the ex-WWE guys, why can't you build your own stars? Fightful Select reported that the news was a possible COO role, and that was later confirmed by Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful also noted that it was an important internal hire. And finally, last night's NXT saw a shock title change, as Dragon Lee was able to get his visa situation handled to defend the NXT North American Championship against Lexis King, the former Brian Pillman Jr. in AEW. God, WWE always getting the ex-AEW guys, why can't you build your own stars? That was sarcasm. Following a successful championship defense, Lee was confronted by Oba Femi, who cashed in his breakout tournament win to get a shot at Dragon Lee for the title, which he then won just over a minute later. Elsewhere on the show, the teams of Nathan Frazier and Axiom and Baron Corbin and Bron Breakker advanced in the Dusty Classic. Cora Jade beat Gigi Dolan. The family retained their tag titles over OTM, and Blair Davenport beat Nikita Lyons after attacking her before the show. Laya Valkyria also announced that a 20-woman battle royal will take place to crown a new #1 contender, which will become a fatal four-way when the last 4 women remain. TNA announced their return, and this extra stip gets added onto another stip. Coincidence? I think not. Look, we have been overwhelmed by the love and support the latest episode of TLC has had, where we count down our worst entrance themes. My list is impeccable, so go give it a watch if you haven't already. It's on screen right now.